so glad that you guys are here. I'm Allison K. Williams.
And I'm Ashley Renard. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Writer's Bridge, episode 10.
And we are called the Writer's Bridge because a platform is a thing that you get up on and yell at people. And a bridge is a two-way communication where you reach your readers and your readers reach you. Today, we are going to talk about a platform that is not social media, although social media is going to kind of weave in there a little bit. But we'll just take a moment and review our last meeting. We talked about content buckets again and how you keep a list of your topics, and that lets you know what to post.
Put my headphones on, don't worry.
That's okay. It's all good. We talked about, and Ashley, I'm just muting everybody, so I'm muting you, and you'll have to unmute. We also talked about how it's important to give away the good stuff. You've got more writing where that comes from. Go ahead and put your real writing in your Instagram. Go ahead and put your real writing in your blog. It's important to share with people stuff that is genuinely valuable, whether that's entertaining or whether that's something that helps them be a better writer or be a better whatever your area of expertise is. We talked about organizing your photos and ideas and how to keep them handy on your phone. We talked about making quote cards and custom GIFs or GIFs, depending on how you feel about that. Saving drafts in Instagram, planning content, and we gave a free downloadable content planner. And we also talked about dealing with family and privacy online. And the short story of that is you can block anyone you want. And I just saw Stephanie hold up her content bucket and content planner. It looks good. She's filled in a lot of subjects there and planned some posts. So go, Stephanie. One of the things that Ashley and I were noticing recently in the comment pods, and so lots of people are on our Instagram comment pods where we all kind of support each other and give feedback on each other's posts and comment on each other's posts. And after that first initial rush of, holy crap, like more people are liking my stuff and more people are commenting on my stuff, it starts to slow down a little, which is very natural. When you get richer, you are happy for a while, and then you achieve the same level of dissatisfaction you had at the previous level of money. And that's true for social media as well. And so we want to remind you guys that a lot of writing is a slog. Social media is a long slog, and it feels immediate, but it is not actually immediate. So I have a nice following through the Brevity blog. I've been blogging for Brevity twice a week since 2014. It is a lot of blog posts. Promoting is a slog. Publishing is a slog. Querying is a slog. Writing a book is a slog. And it doesn't actually get easier because you get better at it, but then you get up to the next level and you need to get better at the next level. Ashley, do you want to weigh in on that?
I do. So a lot of the things that are really connecting with people that I'm sharing right now are things that I tried out 3-4 years ago, just adding one little sentence to the beginning of a post about something else. I started this post 3 years ago that said, if you know me in real life, you know nothing makes me prouder than child labor and monogamy is tough. Wait, do I usually say that one just in my head? And that was the first time I put out this little feeler, and I thought I was going to throw up when I hit post. And then I wrote about something pretty benign, maybe a little funny for the rest of it. I thought I was going to be ill from the fear of making this little joke about monogamy being hard. Now I have a 13-part series of videos on Instagram Reels and TikTok about keeping monogamy hot. And my memoir is about how I took doing it all to the next level when my husband and I became the world's worst attempted swingers. And even my grandma's read it. So these are the little baby steps that we take that all feel terrifying, and it never stops feeling terrifying. It's just you have more practice hitting post while scared. And then the feedback that came from that very first post, a bunch of people showed up in my DMs and they were like, oh my gosh, monogamy, like what's with that? Marriage, like whose idea was marriage? Like I'd like to speak to the manager, the one who decided on marriage. So all of these little private messages came to me and I was like, oh, okay. I struck a little chord with people. They thought it was relatable and they thought it was funny. So then the next time I put out a little bit more. And a lot of times when I share something that is private, and Allison and I are both radically honest about certain parts of our lives. We don't say everything about everything, but the parts that we are honest about, when people come to us either in our comments on social media or come to us in our direct messages, I always continue the conversation with them. Even if it is someone who I don't follow and it shows up in my message requests, I check my message requests a lot because those are new audience members who I haven't connected with yet, who are taking time to send me a private message. And oftentimes those private messages are this long. Just this week, I got 3 messages this long from different men whose wives had just had babies. And the men had seen my videos about intimacy and marriage and were saying, okay, so this gave me some ideas on how I can help my wife feel more comfortable, but I'm wondering, what about this and this? And they felt safe enough asking me about this, a stranger who does funny videos on social media. And I took time to respond. And then we went back and forth. And I said, what do you think of this? I can tell you really care about her. It's so nice that you're thinking about this. And then that is a connection that I've created. And in our writing, I think all of us want to write things that help people, entertain people, or otherwise make them feel something. So we can do that.
Memoir or fiction. And there's a sense of this radical honesty that Ashley's practicing when she talks about monogamy, that Stephanie's practicing when she does videos with no filters and no makeup and is proud of, this is my age and this is what I look like. And I've just come out of my thyroid cancer treatment and here's what it is. And it's that sense of not violating your own privacy, but the areas that you are comfortable being radically honest in, whether that is your memoir or the deep truthfulness of the fiction that you are writing on the page. And novelists, you guys know it, you have to be deeply honest and emotionally risky as well for it to touch the reader.
So when someone reaches out to you, reach back. And that's what we're going to be talking about, making these connections in real life. Because a lot of these people who I've connected with, I've ended up just sending my whole book to, saying, okay, you know what, just read this, see if it can help. Because if someone says, I had divorce papers signed, and then I watched your 30-second video saying, before you get a divorce, and I put the divorce papers to the side for a minute, what else can you give me? I'm going to give them everything I can give them. And like Allison and I were talking about a couple of weeks ago, we don't need to look at our social media followers or people we meet at a conference or a workshop as customers. We want to look at them as friends and colleagues, because these are the people we're going to make connections with. We're going to offer them something. Then there's going to be a time when they feel that we've had that genuine connection and they want to offer some reciprocity. And then they're going to offer something, whether it's pre-orders for the book or connecting you with another person that can really help in your next step in your writing.
When they see your book in the bookstore, you want their heart to give a little leap and for them to go, I know that person, her book finally came out. And that is just, that's an incredible thing when we can give enough to make that happen. So when we talk about platform that is not social media, I like to think of the 5 Ps. And the 5 Ps are publication, prizes, public speaking, PR, and projects. And Ashley and I are going to give you an overview of each of these things. And in the middle, there will be slides. So let's start with publications. You guys have probably heard the term hot essay. And for memoirists and people writing creative nonfiction or self-help nonfiction, memoir, a hot essay is getting an essay published in a mass media venue or a reasonably big deal literary magazine where it attracts attention and people share that information about your essay and communicate it to other people. This happens in fiction as well. Kristen Rupian wrote a story called Cat People that came out in the New Yorker a couple of years ago. That was like suddenly a short story was news for about 6 weeks, and she got a book deal out of it because it was a hot story. Where your hot essay or hot story is going to appear is going to depend a lot on whether you are a literary or a commercial writer. Ashley, tell us what the difference between literary and commercial is.
Okay, so commercial is really the genre fiction or the memoir that you would see that's really based around a very specific theme. Love Warrior, Eat, Pray, Love, Wild. All of my favorite memoirs are commercial. I have a very commercial taste. And when I first joined writers groups online, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not literary enough. But that is just my style. That is my style. And that is how I write as well. And that is why my agent signed me, because she saw it as a really commercial story that was going to be, she thought, easy to sell. Literary is far more, it's based more on the writing, the character development. It's, you know, the people who would come out of MFA programs would spend a lot, you know, oftentimes they teach even as visiting professors. Those are the main differences as I see them.
And so if you're a commercial author, you're going to want to publish that hot essay or that big deal article in a mass media venue, a women's magazine like Real Simple or Mary Claire, a special interest magazine like Sports Illustrated or Wired or BuzzFeed, a mass media place like the New York Times or the Washington Post. If you are more literary, you want to keep an eye out for what are the literary magazines that you respect and admire and that you see the people around you respecting and admiring as well. If you're a serious creative nonfiction person, you probably want to get into Brevity, or you want to get into creative nonfiction, or you want to get into Kenyan Review, places like that. If you are writing beautiful fiction, you want to get into the Paris Review, you want to get into Prairie Schooner. And Stephanie points out it's really important to understand if you're literary or commercial and to not feel bad if you're commercial, because it seems like a lot of people only respect literary. I definitely see that. And I kind of straddle the literary and commercial worlds because a lot of my early publications were literary and because I'm affiliated with Brevity. But the work that I'm being popular for right now is writing help, like writing craft, you know, get published, get better at writing. And honestly, like I make way more money off the commercial stuff. So I have no problem being a commercial writer. And I value literary writing too. I think it's beautiful. I think it's incredible. Right now, it's not my primary focus, but it really is kind of, you know, well, what's better, the, you know, the Broadway musical or the Hollywood star who gets into the big blockbuster movie? You know, the people who come to see them, the people who pay for tickets to those things, they are there for a different experience. And so think about the experience you want to deliver to your readers. And that is what you should be proud of if you are accomplishing it. Ashley, do you want to weigh in on that?
I love that Stephanie said that, and it's not that one is better than the other. It's that they're different and they have different audiences, and really understanding where we fit. And for me, my writing style fits with my preferred book to read as well. I have no business writing a literary memoir because I don't really like reading them. So just take a look at those, at what you love to read, and really be clear. And we all have to know what genre we write. If you say, oh, you know what, it kind of is like across genres, and it's, I shouldn't use a mocking voice when I say this, because I tell my children that's one of the rules. Use your words, but don't imitate anybody else's voice. If you can't find comp titles, if you can't find a match of other books that have sold that match your genre, maybe you're not quite clear on the kind of book you're writing right now, because we all need to, regardless of how we publish, we all need to figure out who is the customer for my book. If you want to sell a book, if you want people to pay money to read your words, you have to figure out who are those people. And it's not everybody in the whole world. It's not everybody in the whole world, even for the most prolific writers in the world, because of all of us in this group right now, 94 of us, there's probably not even one book that every one of us has read. And I'm sure that we're voracious readers. So there are tons of tastes, and figuring out where your style of writing or the specific book you're working on fits is super important.
And Sarah also asked, is there a difference between literary and commercial for novels? 100% absolutely yes. What we think of often for commercial for novels is genre fiction. So mysteries are commercial, science fiction is commercial, fantasy is commercial, most young adult is commercial. Often commercial is extremely well written, and you get into what's called upmarket or book club fiction, where it talks about, sophisticated ideas in sophisticated prose. So keep in mind that in the long run, pay attention to what you love to read, and whatever you love to read, ideally that's what you want to be writing, because that's what you're going to be best able to look at the tools. Marissa asks, how do you know if a book that's already published is literary or commercial? For example, The Glass Castle, The Collected Schizophrenias, both of those are literary. The snide way to put it is, did it sell less than 10,000 copies? Then it's probably literary. However, many literary novels do in fact hit big. So for example, I'm gonna talk about a piece of fiction called Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel, brilliant Booker Prize winning author. Anything that wins the Booker Prize is literary. And typically literary stuff wins big deal literary prizes. Some examples of literary memoir, The Glass Castle is literary memoir, but then Jenny Lawson's Let's Pretend This Never Happened is commercial memoir. And a lot of times things do cross over like that. So Wild was written kind of literary, but because the topic appealed to so many people, it became a commercial book that lots and lots and lots of people wanted to read. And a lot of times that really is the dividing line. How much did it sell? So when you are submitting work to these different places, I want to just give you guys a quick look at some slides where we can talk briefly about where should you be submitting your work and how the heck do you know. So I'm just going to share screen here and make my little slideshow happen. And does everybody see a slide that says, how good are you? Yeah, awesome. And how can you tell? And so when you're looking at literary magazines, or when you're looking at Modern Love, or when you're looking at the New Yorker's Shouts and Murmurs, or you're looking at McSweeney's, how can you tell that you are good enough to get into these venues, to get into these journals, to get into this mass media? So this is a 3-step process. And the first step is you want to be able to honestly contemplate your own amazingness. And so as writers, we tend to seesaw back and forth between I am amazing, my work is the shit, only Philistines fail to appreciate me. However, the flip side of that is we also tend to think I suck. That one thing was a fluke. I will never make anything worth reading again. The people who like my work are lying to make me feel better. Perhaps I will start greeting at Walmart. At least that would make a positive impact on the world. Or sit on the curb outside and wave weakly at strangers like a loser, because that would be better than writing another terrible piece. And all of us writers have this feeling. It's the you're great monster and the you're suck monster, and they live on your opposite shoulders. You're great. Nobody appreciates your greatness. You suck. As soon as they find out how bad you are, they're all going to know. No, you're great. Nobody appreciates you. That rejection was full of shit. And this is common. We all have this. And so our inner instincts are not always our best guide as to how good we are. So here's the 3 steps towards figuring out how good you are. And this is a picture from a corporate event for the Chrysler Corporation that I directed many years ago. I am not one of the people in the air in this picture, but this is part of my circus background. The first step of reading the venues that you want to be published in is that wow feeling. Read for enjoyment. And if you are not enjoying the work that you're reading, chances are good that's not the venue you want to be published in. Pick where you like to read, not where you feel like you should like to read. And some of that really does come down to the balance between literary and commercial as well. I don't read a whole ton of literary magazines. I read some of them, but not that many. And so publishing in literary magazines has not been my focus the past couple of years because it's not what I love to read. What I love to read is young adult. And so the novel that I'm working on right now is young adult. What I like to write is writing craft. That's my next book that's coming out. The next step after you can watch for enjoyment, read for enjoyment, is being able to see the tools. So I'm a circus person. When I look at this person in the air, my partner, MA, I think, okay, nice arms, big smile. I think that's an opposite side wrap that she's in. Nice hook of the leg there on the top. This is you looking and going, okay, structure, story, craft. What is making this piece great? Can I identify the tools that this author is using? And that doesn't mean that you have to sit down and do homework and analyze it, but I will say that it helps a lot. Like if you really want to be published in modern love, read 20 or 30 modern loves, and you will start to notice they start in scene, then they flash back. Then there's a reference to the present day. Then there's another scene from the past. They're really formulaic in their structure. And knowing that will help you write a piece that is right for modern love if you want to be in modern love. McSweeney's pieces always have a sharp, mean edge to them in some way and a really specific point of view. When you read a McSweeney's humor piece, there's always a sense of specifically who is telling us this. And whenever I coach writers who want to get into McSweeney's, that's the number one thing we work on. Who is telling the reader this? Why are they telling it to us now? The third step is to be able to use the tools yourself. That's me in Austria many years ago. So you want to do wow, you want to see the tools, and you want to use the tools where you start making conscious writing craft choices. And an exercise that I've found really useful is if I see a piece that I think seems really impressive or that I really like a lot, I will try to copy the structure or copy the voice or copy the form in my own words so that I can practice that aspect of craft that they are doing and try to model myself on them. It doesn't mean that's going to be a piece for publication, but it's a way to deeply understand how another writer is using craft. So we've looked at some pretty circus pictures, and I just want to push this into actual writing. And so this is from Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel, Booker Prize winning literary historical fiction. And this is early in the book. The weather is cold, but the sea is flat. Cat has given him a holy medal to wear. He has slung it around his neck with a cord. It makes a chill against the skin of his throat. He unloops it. He touches it with his lips for luck. He drops it. It whispers into the water. He will remember his first sight of the open sea, a gray, wrinkled vastness like the residue of a dream. That's beautiful. Hilary Mantel did an amazing job on that piece. So that's our wow moment. Then we want to look and go, okay, so there's a really lyrical last line there. Most of the sentences are pretty short, but that last line is extra long. And that's kind of what embodies the image when we get to the point of the main image there. We notice also that she has stacked a metaphor and a simile in that last line as well. So normally the simile would refer to the specific thing, the metaphor would refer to a different specific thing, but here, like the residue of a dream, is a simile referring directly to the metaphor of a gray wrinkled vastness. So she has stacked the metaphor and the simile, which is a more sophisticated construction than either one of those alone. Then we notice also that near the beginning, she's got some really simple, flat diction. It's mostly single syllable words. The weather is cold, but the sea is flat. He has slung it around his neck with a cord. All of these sentences start subject, verb, subject, verb, subject, verb. They're really simple constructions until we get to this last sentence where the first alliteration happens. It whispers into the water. And that alliteration takes us into that lyricism of the last sentence. And so once we have seen it and gone, wow, and then gone, oh, hey, these are the steps that that writer is doing to make us feel that wow, the next step is to sit down and to try to write something similar as an exercise, as practice, and then try to internalize that skill so that you can first consciously use it in your own work, and then unconsciously it will start to naturally happen in your voice. And when you are regularly and unconsciously using the tools that you see in the venues you want to be published in, that's when you're good enough to be in them. Ashley, do you want to add anything to that?
I just want to echo everyone here saying this is brilliant. We have a lot of nice comments in the chat box, how this is so eye-opening. Allison has such a beautiful way of simplifying everything to teach it. And it's one of the reasons I love being her partner in this. So just so everybody understands, you want to get your pieces in the places that you love reading. And let's just go back again to not what you think you should love reading, but what you actually love reading. Is that McSweeney's? Is that, the Reductress? Like, is it funny, satirical humor? Or is it like, for me, one of the verticals that I do love is modern love. So I took 20 modern love essays and I did what Allison just talked about. I read through all of them. I took notes on each of them and they're all about the same length. And I went like paragraph by paragraph, like what are the beats? Like what is the arc within this piece? I am also a former performer, figure skating coach and choreographer, and I'm the only choreographer I know who choreographed on Excel spreadsheets. I like to have a system. I like to break it all down to math if I can. So if I can figure out, okay, this many paragraphs, this is how the arc goes, that helps me in a big way. Because when we have ideas, it can be hard to find the container that they fit in. So by looking at these pieces in the publications that we admire and figuring out the formula, it doesn't make anything too robotic about your writing. It just gives you the framework. It gives you the framework in which to put your beautiful, world-changing ideas and
like
lyrical constructions. It is. You need to have that framework within which to create. Like Allison, when she would choreograph circus programs, she would have a certain number of people to be incorporated, a certain length of time, right, Allison?
Oh yeah.
My skating programs, I had a list of requirements from US Figure Skating. I'm putting my hands like this, but really it was 40 pages long. And it had to be 3 minutes and 30 seconds plus or minus 10 seconds. With 20 bodies on the ice. And within those requirements, you can be wildly, wildly creative. But if you have no container, you're never going to get the thing made. So don't be afraid to put a container and a structure around the things that you're writing.
Yeah. And that said, there are some places that are really specific about their container. Somebody mentioned Narratively in the chat, and Narratively has a terrific list of what we want to see in a pitch. We want active scenes. We want the story to do this. We want the story to do that. There's other places where the only way you can figure out what they want is by reading what they're publishing. Mary asks, when you have an idea for a piece, should you go ahead and write it as you see fit rather than tilt it towards a specific publication? So write first and then publish it. You can honestly go either way. I tend to have a stack of finished pieces, and then once a year I do a month that I call Submit All the Things, and I send out a submission every single day for a month. And this does two things for me. Number one, it gets me looking at who might publish my work. Does three things. Number two, it gets me actually published because some of them do pick me up. But number three, it makes rejection hurt a lot less, because when you send out 30 pieces in 30 days, you're going to get a couple of rejections the first week. There just are people who turn it around that fast. And those first rejections really hurt. They sting for like 24 to 48 hours. But by the next week, you've had a couple of rejections. Like, oh, there's another one. I'll cross it off the spreadsheet. 6 months later, when the last of the rejections are trickling in, you've already had some publications, so you're feeling better about it. And you're going, wait a minute, who are you? What did I send you? Let me look it up on my spreadsheet and see. And it's a lot easier to feel. Elena asks, you submit 30 different pieces a month or submit the same piece 30 times? Usually I take between 5 and 15 pieces and submit them each to multiple places. I'm a big believer in simultaneous submissions. So the next P is prizes. And we're going to whip fairly quickly through prizes. And Rick, I'm so glad you had 2 rejections in the last 2 days, because that's proof you're doing the work. There is no publication without rejection. Gymnasts do not get flips without falling. You don't get to get the thing without the rejection. It just doesn't happen. So prizes. There are prizes. There are pushcart prizes that are given for literary magazine work. There are Best American essays, Best American short stories, Best American travel writing. And for the Best American anthologies, you can submit yourself. You don't have to wait for anybody to nominate you. It has to be published, and you have to mail in a physical copy, but turn to the back of the book. There's their address. You can submit your own stuff. Watch out for the $75 sticker, as I like to call some of these contests. So because I need to be up to date for my clients on what kind of prizes are legit, what kind of publishing is legit, whenever I see somebody announce that they have won a prize, I say to myself, I wonder what that prize is. And I look it up at a link that we are going to email you guys, the Alliance of Independent Authors, which has a chart of how legitimate is this contest. And so most of the problem with $75 sticker contests is there are a million bajillion categories, and you can enter your book in as many categories as you want, as long as you pay that $30 to $70 entry fee every time. These contests exist to generate money for the contest organizers. Everybody wins them, and when you win, you get the prize of, now you can send us more money and buy some stickers to put on your book. And these stickers don't really mean a lot to readers. Like, oh, look, it's pretty. There's a sticker on the book. It says they won something. But most of these contests are not recognized names, unless it's the Pulitzer, the Pushcart, the National Book Award, the Booker Prize, the Orange Prize. They're just not that big a deal. So watch out, especially if you're going independently publishing or hybrid publishing. Check the link that we're going to send you for whether or not a contest is legit. However, winning a genuine prize can be something that helps elevate your profile as a writer and gets you in front of agents. Cecilia asks, is there a link for reputable contests? And I don't know that there is one, but I'll take a look and see. What everyone else should also be reading all the time is a website called Writer Beware. And we're going to send you the link for that as well. Writer Beware is run by the Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers Association, but it covers stuff for everyone. And Writer Beware talks about, hey, this publisher is having trouble sending royalties checks right now. Watch out. Hey, these people sent out a contract, and here's the clause that's really dodgy, and here's the clause that is kind of dodgy, and here's the clause that should send you screaming for the hills. You should read some Writer Beware, not necessarily to track specific publishers and contests and agents who are scams or ripoffs or cheats, but to get a sense of what these scams and what bad news looks like. So that when you see, oh, hey, there's this clause in my contract from this publisher that approached me, But writer beware pointed out a similar clause from another publisher and it sounded like bad news. So maybe I'll do a little more research and double check and see if there's anything else I can find out about it. So I would definitely recommend read writer beware for a sense of the general, this is ethical, this is not. Anything else on prizes, Ashley, before we whip into public speaking?
No, I think you covered it really, really well. Thank you, Allison.
Fantastic. And somebody was asking in the comments about simultaneous or non-simultaneous submissions. Almost everybody takes simultaneous submissions now. And if you wait for people to get back to you, you're going to be waiting for a really long time. I think even The Sun now takes simultaneous submissions, and they were kind of the last holdout on non-simultaneous submissions. Public speaking. What do you have to share and who needs to hear it? So a lot of you are starting to make Instagram Reels or Instagram TV or Instagram videos. And a lot of times what you're saying in a 30-second reel could also be a 10-minute presentation. The Hippocamp Writing Conference does a series of flash sessions where you all go into the room for one session, but 6 or 10 different authors all present for 10 minutes apiece on their different topics. It's really useful to think about, do you want to speak publicly? What are you interested in? And whatever you're interested in, read more about it. You become an expert by reading. You become known as an expert by sharing. So why do you guys think Ashley and I are experts on platform? Because we told you we are. And because you show up, you get the information. When we don't know something, we look it up and get back to you. And we do our best to give you something of value. And when you use that thing and you go, oh, hey, it worked. Allison and Ashley must really know what they're talking about. Whereas behind the scenes, Allison and Ashley are like, oh God, what do we tell them today? Have we run out of material? When are we going to get back to this? You know, so it really is about deciding what you love to know, what you love to share. For Cecilia, it's flying. For Stephanie, it's cooking. For Jessica, it's justice. And how can you share your opinion in a way that establishes you as a person who knows what they're talking about? Ashley, how did you become the expert on hot monogamy?
Like I said, I just started dropping those little breadcrumbs. Like, do people give a crap about this? The answer is yes, they really do. I started in my Instagram stories, just saying a little bit here or there. I also, when I was still writing my manuscript memoir, I said to people on Facebook and Instagram, hey, my topic is like a little spicy. If you want to know more, send me a message and I'll add you to my close friends on Instagram. Close friends is this thing you can use, like if you're sharing pictures of your kids or like really personal things. I used it strategically as a marketing thing to get people to buy in without signing up for a newsletter or anything, buy into, oh, we'd like to be in Ashley's inner circle to start getting little teasers and tidbits about the memoir. And then I would send them a message saying, okay, I added you. If you see a green circle around my story in Instagram, that means I didn't chicken out and I'm actually going to share what this book's about. So my memoir is about a racy topic, but all of these little things piqued people's curiosity. And then anytime I would post a little something about, this is what it's about, this is the cover I would want, these are things that are private about it. I even told them there what agents were reading my memoir and what writers they represented, because it was just a small group. It sort of like felt like a group message to closer friends. But that was one of the ways that I really tried out, are people interested in this? And when I found that they were, then I just started giving advice like I knew what I was talking about. I have been with my partner for 18 years. And we have 3 children. We're both workaholics. So figuring out how to actually be intimate takes a lot of work. When I would make a video people would like, I would go into my stories and say, a lot of people liked this. Do you guys have any suggestions for what my next videos should be? And I would put a little question box in the Instagram stories, and tons of people would come and give me, oh, let's more of this, please, more of this. Me and my partner, we schedule sex, and that really helps. You should make a video about that, because that was a real game changer for us. I acted like an expert and then asked people what it was that I was sharing that really helped them and what else they would like me to share. So then when people feel like they have that bridge with you, they become even more interested. Like when I shared the videos that they suggest, they like it and they share it, and they never say this was my suggestion, but they feel like they have more buy-in. They feel like they have more agency in the content that's being created for them.
And so two things about this. One is, if you don't yet have a venue for public speaking, a lot of us aren't going to conferences this year. I think all of us are not going to conferences this year, much sadness. Think about how could you share in a small and low stakes way. So there's a novelist named Diane Zinna who published The All-Night Sun this year. It's a beautiful book. She writes about grief. That's what her novel centers on. It's what a lot of her essays have been about. And so she's now hosting an open Zoom meetup. I think it's every other week. It's like $10 to come. So it's, really low stakes, where she gives writing prompts and people have a little bit of conversation with each other. They do some writing, camera on or off, and they have a little bit of conversation at the end with Diane talking a little bit about writing. So what Diane is doing is providing something that is genuinely of value to the people who want to come and hear about it, want to come and learn to write better, but that also specifically is the work that she wants to be doing. And she's establishing herself as an expert by giving people something of value. Diane Zinna, Zinna. So if you're a little bit scared, make a free group or make a cheap group or facilitate something that somebody else is going on. I've found a lot of help with being on panels and being in readings with other people, where I team up with other people. We do an event together, or I'm at a conference and I'm not speaking by myself, but I'm getting asked to be on a panel. And I find too that if you practice being present for the people either on your media, in your personal circle, at conferences, in the bookstore, being present gets you the gig. So last year at the Emirates Literature Fest, which is like the big literary festival in Dubai each year, I ended up being the conversation partner for Tayari Jones, who wrote An American Marriage. She's a brilliant novelist. Like, she's way out of my league. The reason I got asked to be Tayari Jones' conversation partner for her big event, which was, one of the keynote events of the festival, was because the year before I had volunteered to be on a panel about publishing, and then a moderator for another panel didn't show up on time, like if they were sick or something like that. And they came to me and they're like, Allison, you're here, you're free, you know about agenting, can you moderate this panel? I'm like, I would love to moderate this panel. And so I ended up becoming the person who is present and can do the job if you need me to do the job. And that helped establish my reputation as, oh, hey, we trust Allison to do this bigger deal event because we saw her rise to the occasion on this smaller event. People who see your small Zoom writing circle may be the people who go, oh, hey, I really love what Rick has to say. I can't wait to get Rick into my bookstore and have him coordinate an event for our local writers. Shelley says she finds it much easier to talk in person than on her Instagram Reels or Instagram Lives. Any tips to get over that? Ashley is totally like the queen of that. I always feel really weird, but the things that have helped me are having a nice background. Like, this is a painted wall in my house and I use this, or I have a blue wall upstairs. Having a nice ring light. Like, you might notice Ashley and I are both bathed in flattering light because we have dropped our $15 on a ring light that's making us look a little nicer. Do small bites and practice that radical honesty. Open up your reel and say, hey, I feel really nervous telling you guys this, but here's my thing. People will love you and trust you and admire you when you are radically honest about how you genuinely feel. And Stephanie's showing her tiny little ring light. Stephanie has one of the ones that I think it clips onto your phone, doesn't it, Stephanie? It's about the hand
And
size,
here's-
about the size of the palm of her hand. And Ashley is showing her ring light, which is more like head size. And I think I have one that's like one size larger than Ashley's.
And mine
So,
goes on a
yeah.
tripod, and then the phone can go right here too, and it adjusts. And it was not expensive. It was on Amazon, maybe $15 for the whole setup. And it gets very small, very compact. It can fit into a bag about this big, the whole thing, if you're taking it somewhere. So,
yeah. Which brings us to PR, public relations, and writing press releases. And this goes along with public speaking and also with getting yourself to be invited as a guest on podcasts, which is what's in it for them. When you are writing your press release to send to your hometown newspaper, to send to your local public radio station, to send to the people who you want to have you as a guest, you need to think about what's in it for them. Because I wrote a book is not actually newsworthy. Only my mother cares that I wrote a book, and my husband pretends to care, and I really appreciate his support. Generally, as I like to put it, you need boobs or you need fire. And here's why I say that. So many years ago, I was touring the Fringe Festival circuit with a one-woman show. And a Fringe Festival is where a town will hold all their theaters at once, will have scheduled entertainment, usually goes on from about noon until about midnight or 1 a.m. for anywhere from 3 to 15 days. And the theater companies pay a fee to be there, and they make their money back in ticket sales. And so there's usually this great carnival atmosphere where everybody is walking around going, come see my show. Here, I'm wearing a giant sandwich board of my poster. Look at my show. Come to my show. And you're competing with 50 or 60 other shows. I almost always got the front page of the newspaper with a great big photo because I provided something that nobody else provided at that time, which was high quality, high resolution, professional photos. So what's in it for them? They have a good photo that they didn't have to pay a photographer to take. The other thing I did was I wrote my press release in such a way that a small town newspaper could print the entire press release as a story without changing a word if they didn't have time or they felt lazy or they wanted something easy. So if you can, write your press release a little like a story that if they wanted to, if the reporter's like, oh crap, I have a deadline and I don't have anything for this space. Oh, hey, this book release proposal is written really well and I'll just copy paste this right into my newspaper article. I have had more than one small town newspaper paste my press release into their website or into their newspaper as the story. My one-woman show tended to get more ticket sales than other people's one-person shows because I showed my boobs in a completely theatrically appropriate manner that people were like, oh, it was like watching you brush your teeth. How odd. And I ate fire in the middle of the show, which again was like theatrically driven. I didn't just, let me just whip this out. But it was on the poster. The poster said sideshow, strip show, talk show. It showed me looking seductive and it showed me with a fire torch in my hand. And so people came because of the promise of boobs and fire. And then I delivered boobs and fire, but not in the way they were expecting to see it. And so there's the hook. What's in it for me? What's in it for me is boobs. What's in it for me is fire. But oh, wow, I've walked out with a really interesting experience from all of this. It's a really meaningful show. It won prizes. Just trust me on that. So think about when you are promoting your book, when you are writing your own press release, as the vast majority of us will have to do, what's your boobs? What's your fire? Ashley, what's your boobs and fire?
So my boobs and fire are, we're the world's worst attempted swingers. So it's pretty similar to Allison's, right? There's a sexy part of it. We, I think, can all find what is that thing that when you share it, people go, oh wait, tell me more. Androdima was talking about her new novel, Annie and the Wolves. And she was sharing the part, her boobs and fire is that she has some family stories that really tie in with similarity to Annie Oakley's story. So when I read that, I was like, oh, wow. Like, I want to hear more about how it was for her writing this book and researching this book with things coming up from her own childhood. That's what I want to hear about.
And so Andromeda's novel, Annie and the Wolves, the Boobs is, here's a side of Annie Oakley's life you've never seen before. Here is something intimate and deep and personal that is not something everybody knows. It's a secret. Boobs, you know. Then you've got the Fire, which is Annie Oakley. I mean, Annie freaking Oakley was pretty darn amazing. And that's a pretty fiery topic. And then as Andromeda is promoting her work, she's deciding how much of my personal connection and experience with the story of what Annie experienced am I interested in sharing? And that's also part of her Boobs and her Fire, because in that case, the Boobs is the vulnerability to share the personal story, and the Fire is being fucking amazing when you share it. Both of which Andromeda does.
And Cecilia says here, I hope you can do it without boobs. Cecilia, your book is right behind me on the shelf, and you have boobs and fire in your book. Okay?
You totally have boobs and fire.
You have boobs and fire.
Like the first woman Latina pilot to be a member of the U.S. aerobatics team.
And she was afraid of heights, like really afraid of heights, and used her badass brain to just get herself over that and have this amazing accomplishment. So Cecilia, those are your boobs and your fire, both. You've got it. So we all need to look at that. Okay.
Your boobs even are what is intimate and personal and vulnerable, and your fire is what is sparky and amazing.
And we all have that. Now in literary, the boobs will be a little quieter. The fire will be a little less like Bernie. Can't find another word right now. Sorry.
In literary, the boobs are the deep vulnerability of the characters on the page, and the fire is how well you write it. The fire is your voice in literary. In commercial, the boobs are sexy, cool topic, like, oh, hey, it's Gone Girl, but with a gay couple. You know, that's your fire there. That's your spark. That's your excitement. And your boobs are, does it make the reader feel something? Does it make the reader have that personal, dare I say, masturbatory experience where they curl up with that book and have a great time for 2 hours? We should all be able to go 2 hours.
Let's all remember that the boobs is a vulnerability, because we have a question here from Mary Catherine. Your dad's suicide, that's boobs. That is like, your experience of that is vulnerability. And every good story, every story that's heaven to read was hell for that person to live. Whether it was the actual person who's writing a memoir, or it was hell for the characters that you're creating in fiction. Okay. So really going into that, like the vulnerability, the pain, really going deep into that story is what gives your reader the gift of seeing you come out the other side.
Our last P is projects. So right now, Writer's Bridge is an 800 and how many? Ashley?
886 people on our list.
886 people on the mailing list after 10 weeks. And a lot of people watch it live. A lot of people end up watching it on the recording later. And Ashley and I started this because we saw each other on Facebook. We liked what each other was doing. And I think I reached out to Ashley and said, hey, we should do a thing. And we did a thing. Projects, joint projects, especially ones that last longer than a couple of weeks, are a really great way to connect with writers personally and lift each other up and help each other out. Ashley and I are both boosting each other's platform, Bridge, by doing this thing together. And by meeting all of you guys, we get a closer connection with you. So when the time comes for you to promote your book, you're going to be able to say, oh, hey, remember us? Remember me? I was at the Writer's Bridge. And we're like, oh yeah, I loved your book. Let's blurb it. Let's send it out to all our friends. Charlotte asks, why did we pick Zoom? Because it was where we could put more than 100 people in a room. basically. And I think it's a little bit more interactive than IG or Facebook Live. So I think that's why we picked Zoom. I don't know. It was the pandemic.
I think so. And just so everybody understands, we didn't have 886 people on the mailing list when we started. We had 0, but we decided we were going to do it anyway. And this is the thing. This is how you grow a bigger community. You give everything you can to the people who show up. If it's 2 people, if it's just your partner and your best friend who show up, you give everything you can to those people. Don't save it. Don't save your best stuff. We never said, here's a bunch of really interesting stuff. We should put that in a book in a few years. No, we're like, let's just give away all the things we know about social media. And we've learned so much more even in the past 10 episodes because we've really dug in and tried to answer questions that we couldn't answer before. And that's the thing.
And it educates us as well.
It does. And when you give away that quality for free, then you really develop those connections. Because I consider the connections with a lot of you to be real life connections now. Real life connections, because we met up here for this project.
And so as you attend events, make an effort to connect beyond the event. If you remember the people you were in a breakout room with, say hi to them on Instagram, send them an email. Invite them to your next book-related or reading-related event. When you get the contact list, next time you go to a class or an event and they send a contact list, contact all the people on the contact list. Send an email that says, hey, I really enjoyed meeting you. Let's, keep in touch if we can. And realistically, we don't really keep in close touch with that many people, but even just reaching out once helps lay the groundwork for being able to reach out later. Nina says, remind us how to find Writers Bridge folk handles. You guys are all going to get an email tomorrow that's got links to the resources that we mentioned. It also has links to join an Instagram comment pod if you would like to sign up for an Instagram comment pod. And there is an explanation at the link if you don't know what that is. I add people about once a week, so don't get super impatient. We will also include a link where there's a Google Doc where everybody who wants to puts their socials and what kind of work they're writing. I also want to encourage you guys, I'm teaching a class through Jane Friedman's website. It's called Second Draft, Your Path to a Powerful Publishable Story. That's going to be a webinar December the 16th. And again, there is a recording available afterwards. It's $25, which I think is a reasonably good deal. And I send you worksheets afterwards. We'll include a link to that as well, or you can find it by Googling Allison K. Williams Second Draft or Jane Friedman, or it's linked from my Instagram. Link in bio, people, link in bio. So Ashley, anything we got to close with before we unmute everybody to say goodbye?
No, just all the connections you make in real life can then lead to great opportunities for your writing. Allison and I both have people we're connected with on social media who we sat next to on trains and planes. Every single person I've sat next to on a plane for the past 4 years is a Facebook friend of mine because I talk to people. And one of them is the person who runs Forbes 30 Under 30. And another one's an investment banker. And so these are people with connections and with interest around my writing and my book and my life because I took interest in them. And they told me things about their families. Like these are the connections that we can make with other humans, whether it is physically beside them or virtually, like so many of us are meeting now.
Yeah. When you are interested, you are interesting. Let's all say goodbye. Thanks for being here.
Bye, thanks everybody.
Bye. He wanted to sing you guys happy birthday.
Yes, please.
Happy birthday.